It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight, reviews of Mercury Fur, The Absolute Brightness of Leonard Pelkey, Hick, A Love Story, Boobs on Broadway, and the 2015 New York Fringe Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle.
Good evening, Charlie.
Good evening, Leslie.
Boobs on Broadway, indeed.
Indeed. Well, we've had them over the years, but apparently people are noticing them quite a bit more.
Oh, I was thinking of a different kind, but I guess.
But we'll kind of, it's got people longing for the days of old Calcutta, but we'll get to that later.
Okay, well, so speaking of city things, maybe we should jump over to...
Well, Boobs on Broadway.
I'll show this while you're talking.
This is not exactly a new issue, but there are ladies on in Times Square on the plaza who stand there with a bikini bottom or something like that and nothing else, and they paint themselves, and they are very nicely endowed, and they'll be happy to pose with you for a picture if you'll slip them a couple of dollars. You know, like consider it Elmo for grown-ups, I guess. Well, the media has finally taken notice of that, and now the city is planning to do something. Well, Leslie and I have our point-counterpoint thoughts about that, so we're going to start with Leslie.
Well, I brought, again, I'm doing pictures tonight. Nixing the plaza is just one idea, says de Blasio. I happen to agree with that. I think that the plazas are something that allowed this to happen, although I just read that they're also out in, now they're taking over that promenade down in Battery Park City, and they're as far out as Coney Island at this point. The thing is, it's one thing when they're Elmo and Batman and fully clothed characters. They're annoying, but they don't cross a line. This crosses a line if you have a family that's walking up the street. And again, I have nothing against nudity. I do not believe in censorship. I also don't think that naked ladies should be put on the street where little kids can see them if that's not what their parents want them to do. So it's completely up to the parents, and there's nothing you can do. They're there. You can't avoid them. You have to walk around covering your kids' eyes. The only reason I would have a problem with them is because of children, not for any other reason. If they are well endowed enough and can make enough money doing that, more power to them. I mean, you know, that part doesn't bother me. What about you, Charlie?
Well, Leslie, you ignorant slut.
Oh, God.
Now, why am I using this 40-year-old SNL cliche? To make a point.
Yes.
You see, 40 years ago, or actually even less, when Times Square was seedy and crime-ridden, we had plenty of women who were willing to show you their tatas for a price.
Ooh.
But there was a big difference. They were inside. You could not get to them unless you were 18 or over, which pretty much jives with what you said. Now we have in the quote-unquote Disney-fied Times Square, they can do this out in the open. Why can't they do this? Because this boob of a judge decided that there is no difference between the upper female anatomy and the upper male anatomy, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, as anyone who ever took a high school biology course or has seen the cover of a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue can attest to. Now this leaves the city, unfortunately, with very limited options, which range from, as you have mentioned, getting rid of the plaza, or just saying no one can walk around shirtless in Times Square, which is probably not a bad idea.
Well, you've got the naked cowboy. That would be a problem for him.
I guess it would be. So we'll have the semi-naked cowboy. But, you know, call me old-fashioned, but I do believe there is a difference between a man going without a shirt and a woman going without a shirt. And again, it's pretty obvious if you ever bother to take a look. They could declare the area a park, which part of it already is, and apparently you can't solicit there. Now, like you, I have no problem with someone dressing up as Elmo or Batman and posing for pictures and getting tips as long as it's done in an appropriate manner. I would actually encourage more street performers. And when I say street performers, I mean singers, dancers. The MTA has set up a very nice program where they have designated spots. And I have seen some incredibly talented groups, anywhere from country to opera
There's
singers.
a black violinist, his name, he calls himself.
Well, there's a black, I guess you could call it a country group. They call themselves the Ebony Hillbillies.
Oh, how cute.
They're wonderful, and they're opera singers there, and pianists and musicians, and it's wonderful. I would like to see more of that on Times Square. This is Broadway, the capital of live entertainment, so that would be wonderful.
Well,
but as far as women wearing nothing but a paint job above the waist, they've got to go one way or the other. I disagree with you about the right. It is the law, and we have to respect that. But people romanticize about sleazy Times Square, but the fact is we are much better off today. We have more theaters. We have more theater companies. We have nonprofit theater companies, which we never, on Broadway, which we never used to have.
Yeah, but the problem is the plazas themselves are such a bottleneck to traffic.
Yes.
They attract the wrong kind of people. They're not, I mean, they're supposedly sitting there. They're supposedly there for tired tourists to sit, but there's not. If you go and try to find a chair sometimes, that's not who's sitting in those chairs. And these people who are doing this are not just quietly walking around and saying, hi, how are you? Some of them are very aggressively, not just the women, but I mean the Elmos as well.
The women are actually fairly subtle, at least from my experience. Now, I wear a yarmulke when I'm in Times Square, so maybe they think, okay, he's
got
probably
a white
not.
Swath. Yes, right.
You know. But, you know, the interesting thing is I'm actually a lot more pro-car than most people in the city. And I don't know. I just try to avoid driving in that area. I always take the train.
Yeah, but it's loused up traffic patterns. I mean, I'm in a cab all the time, but even for buses, it's terrible.
Okay, well,
it's just terrible.
So, you know, people have criticized Mayor de Blasio for putting that on the table. Maybe
no, I'm all
he's
for
got
them
a
getting
point.
rid
Well,
of it,
obviously
you know.
not you, but maybe he's got a point.
Yeah.
The thing is, just thinking about Times Square in general, the flip side of the wonderfulness of Times Square is that it is so crowded. I used to think of the place as my private playground, and now you can barely move there.
Yeah.
Plus, we've lost a lot of wonderful things. We had a great Howard Johnson's there.
Oh, please.
Oh, it was lovely.
Yeah, fried
Colony
clams,
Music,
okay.
all right, overpriced,
Right.
but they had a great stock. But even, not only have we lost the old icons, but we're going to lose a new icon. Toys R Us is going to be closing, so we have to say goodbye to the Ferris wheel and the
I never thought of that as
anatomical
appropriate for Times Square because, again, that's
Dinosaur.
for kids. You know, and this is not necessarily a kids. I never thought of Times Square as being for kids. It's an adult
I have
kind of
never
thing.
thought of it as being a kid's place, but I don't have a problem with it having attractions for kids. There are quite a few musicals and quite a few plays that are very appropriate. Now, I would not take a child to see Mercury Fur. I'm not even sure I'd take him to see the absolute brightness of Leonard Peltier, but I'd certainly take them to see Wicked or
Well, yeah, there's plays that are for
any
children.
number, King and I.
Yeah,
Etc.
well,
The
that's
problem
not the-
is, though, the prices are now in the stratosphere,
Yes, well.
and that makes it very hard to have a family event. But all in all, Times Square is much better for being family-friendly, and the Painted Ladies have to go. And that is our show for the evening, and when you go to the theater, look for Leslie and me, us two.
On the aisle.